Blood on white marble. That is the first thing Maya sees when the gravity generators stutter. Not red, but a bruised violet, arterial spray from a thorax not built to withstand sudden decompression. The scent hits her next. Ozone and scorched silk. The chemical signature of high-velocity plasma cutting through ceremonial robes. Somewhere in the dying echoes of the explosion, Empress Zira of the Vrell Consensus is screaming, the sound modulating through 3 octaves of panic that human ears were never meant to hear. Maya's hands do not shake. They never do. The SIG Sauer P320X10 is already in her grip, its polymer frame warm from 6 hours of body heat, 10 millimeters of earth-forged persuasion that the galaxy's diplomats forgot to account for when they labeled her decorative. But that is later. First, there is the boredom. The summit convenes at 0600 station time, and Maya has been awake since 0330. Not from duty, not from vigilance. From the dreams, the ones that have followed her since the Kepler station posting 2 years ago. The ones where gravity is right, where her feet press into ground that pushes back with the honest, familiar weight of a planet that genuinely wants to kill you. She wakes up in the featherlight pull of Cephalon Spire's 0.4G and lies there for a moment, feeling like a balloon that has been inflated slightly past capacity. Like all her joints are held together with suggestions instead of ligaments. She hates low gravity, has always hated it. It makes her feel floaty, unmoored, like her body keeps forgetting where the floor is. She does her morning routine anyway. 70 push-ups, harder than they sound when your own weight provides almost no resistance, when you have to deliberately brace yourself against the floor to get anything useful from the motion. 3 sets of dead hangs from the bunk frame that she installed herself with a drill borrowed from the maintenance crew. A breakfast of reconstituted eggs and something the Vrell kitchen staff called morning protein, which tasted like chalk soaked in ammonia but technically fulfilled Earth's macronutrient requirements. She pulls on the dress uniform, the one Lockheed Martin's tactical division calls Formal Hostile Environment Class C, which means it looks like a military cocktail dress and stops a 7mm round, but only barely and only if you don't think too hard about the margins. She checks the SIG. Chambers around. Holsters it under her left arm where the jacket conceals the profile. She looks at herself in the reflective surface of the viewport. 34 years old. Brown hair going gray at the temples, which she has decided to leave because she has earned every single one of them. A jaw that her father used to call stubborn architecture. Dark circles under her eyes from 6 months of alien food and recycled air and dreams about gravity. You look terrible, she thinks. Good. Looking terrible is part of the job. Looking harmless is the whole job. The summit of 9 houses convenes in the grand chamber of the Cephalon Spire, a rotating orbital station suspended above the gas giant Veriprime, where local gravity is a gentle 0.4 Earth standard. The chamber itself is a masterpiece of alien engineering, 50 meters of polished white stone that the Vrell call Marat Hein, veined with silver that bioluminesces faintly in the blue spectrum lighting. The ceiling arches 3 stories overhead in vaulted curves, every surface carved with the symbolic histories of the 9 houses. It is, Maya has to admit, genuinely beautiful. It is also, tactically speaking, an absolute disaster. 3 primary entry points, 2 service corridors, crystalline windows that look spectacular and stop nothing. Gravity plating accessible through maintenance hatches that any competent engineer could reach in under 4 minutes. Seating arranged for aesthetics rather than evacuation logic, which means in an emergency, 200 alien dignitaries will spend their last moments of life running into each other. Maya has submitted 4 security redesign proposals since arriving. All 4 were returned with diplomatic language that translated roughly to "the human is confused about what her role is." She stands at parade rest behind Empress Zira's hovering throne and watches the emissaries circle. The Vrell are ethereal things, 3 meters tall. Their bones hollow as a bird's wings. Their skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that convey emotion faster than words. Zira herself is a sculpture of opal and starlight, her neck long and graceful. Her fingers 6-jointed and fine as spun glass. her movements carrying the slow and weightless ease of a creature that has never once in its evolutionary history been required to outrun anything. Maya has been watching Zira for 6 months. She has catalogued 47 distinct bioluminescent emotional states. She knows that the pale gold shimmer at the base of Zira's throat means the Empress is nervous but performing confidence. She knows that the rapid blue flicker behind her eyes means she finds something genuinely funny but considers it undignified to show. She knows that Zira watches Maya too, sometimes quick, curious glances, as though Maya is a puzzle that the Empress returns to repeatedly and cannot quite solve. They have had exactly 3 conversations in 6 months. All 3 were brief. All 3 were professional. Maya suspects Zira would like to have more, and doesn't know how to ask. She does not let herself think about that. It is not relevant to the job. Ambassador Crix of the Logi Collective drifts into Zira's orbit during the morning reception, his voice box translating his native resonance language into Galactic standard with a faint musical undertone. He is tall, even by Vrell standards, his skeleton optimized for 0.2 g all length and no density. A creature built for a world where gravity is a nuisance rather than a defining force. The human stands so still, Crix observes, his translator conveying amusement with a faint harmonic lift. Is it malfunctioning, Zira? Or merely hibernating? Maya does not react. She is counting exits. She has been counting exits for 4 hours. It is how she passes the time. Zira's bioluminescence shifts to pale blue, embarrassment, or perhaps the diplomatic equivalent of a nervous laugh. Ms. Voss is a cultural attaché. Her presence is ceremonial, a gesture of solidarity with the Terran protectorate. Decorative, Crix agrees, as though Zira has confirmed something he suspected. He studies Maya with the detached interest of a collector examining a mildly interesting artifact. Though I confess I find it peculiar that the Terrans sent a female specimen. The homeworld file suggests they're bipedal. Remarkably dense bone structure for a tool-using species. The gravity data is almost certainly corrupted. No civilization could emerge from a 1.0 G environment. The predation levels alone would prevent the development of complex social structures. Maya breathes in through her nose, out through her mouth. Class 9 classification, says another delegate, a hegemony admiral whose name Maya hasn't bothered to learn. He makes the designation sound like a joke. A clerical error, surely. We reclassified Duraxis as Class 8 and nothing larger than a groundworm has survived there in a millennium. Earth has cities. Sentient life simply does not emerge from Class 9 conditions. Perhaps it is an error, Crix agrees pleasantly. He glances at Maya one more time. Though the bone density readings are peculiar. Redundant systems throughout the physiology. A rather extreme immune response architecture. Multiple cardiovascular redundancies. He tilts his head, almost as though the genome has been selecting for damage tolerance rather than efficiency. Fascinating in a primitive way. He drifts away. Zira watches him go, then glances at Maya. A quick, sideways look, bioluminescence briefly flashing that blue behind the eyes color. Maya meets her gaze. You find this funny? Maya's expression says. Zira looks away. The blue flicker is definitely amusement. Maya allows herself, privately, to find this 1% charming. Then she goes back to counting exits. The morning session is trade disputes and mineral rights, and the thoroughly exhausting subject of Earth's moon, which 3 separate hegemony factions have been quietly classifying as unclaimed resource territory for the past decade. Maya listens with one ear, cataloging the political tensions the way she catalogs physical threats, noting which delegates stiffen when certain phrases are used, which alliances shift when certain names come up, which exits are positioned behind which power centers. She has been doing this for 4 hours when something changes. Not dramatically, not with fanfare, just a small thing. A data courier who enters the chamber from the Eastern Service Corridor, the wrong service corridor, the one that has been listed as sealed for maintenance since yesterday morning. Maya clocked the sealed status on her first perimeter check. The courier is presenting credentials to the chamber's AI checkpoint, credentials that check out, that are in the system, that are entirely valid. Maya watches the courier cross the chamber floor. He walks like a soldier. Controlled weight distribution. Arms slightly away from the body. Head tracking independent of neck movement. It is subtle. It would be invisible to anyone who has not spent time studying how people carry themselves when they are prepared to do violence. Maya's thumb moves to the safety on the SIG and does not disengage it. Not yet. The courier reaches the Eastern Data Terminal and begins a routine delivery sequence. Everything is correct. Everything is in order. Maya clocks the microtremor in his left hand. Pre-action adrenaline. She knows it because she knows her own blood. You cannot fake stillness once the body has decided it is about to do something irreversible. Her hand closes around the SIG. Her eyes sweep the room. Exits, distances, Zira's position, the crystalline windows, the gravity plating hatches, the 16 remaining service staff, the 42 delegates, the 12 Vrell honor guard with their sonic disruptors and their fragile pride and their absolute certainty that nothing terrible is about to happen in this beautiful room. Maya inhales. The lights flicker. Not the gentle dimming of power conservation, but a stutter, a hiccup, the electrical death cry of a system being force-fed a viral payload. Maya's ocular implant, a Boeing combat HUD grafted onto her retina 2 years ago, flares red with threat warnings before the sound of the explosion even reaches her. The eastern wall, 50 meters of Marat Hein and silver bioluminescence, implodes. Not explodes. Implodes. Shrapnel becomes bullets in the fluctuating gravity, and the first Vrell delegate simply comes apart. His chest cavity caving inward, hollow bones shattering like sugar glass. Maya is already moving. She grabs Zira by the collar, no time for gentleness, no time for protocol, and hauls the Empress from the hovering throne with a force that makes Zira cry out in shock. Maya adjusts instantly, fingers finding pressure points rather than grip, the muscle memory of 6 months of what if I ever actually have to grab her, running her hands faster than conscious thought. She drags Zira behind the anti-grav housing of the throne, using its bulk as cover. Plasma fire crosses the chamber in lines of white-violet light, slicing through 2 Vrell honor guards who simply had not processed that the situation had changed. What? Zira gasps. What is dash? Assassination squad, Maya says. Her voice comes out steadier than she feels. Multiple species. Professional. They hit the system first, then the walls. This was planned. She peeks around the throne housing. The breach is organized chaos. Assassins in void-hardened exosuits. Silhouettes bulky and insectal, moving in a tactical stack. They are coordinated. They are well-equipped. They have come prepared for Vrell honor guards and diplomatic security drones and exactly none of what they are about to encounter. She counts 8. No 10. 2 more on the upper gallery level. Maya's HUD calculates threat geometry. It is not good math. She glances at Zira. The Empress is pressed against the throne housing, her elongated body folded in on itself, her bioluminescence a strobing cascade of white pure, incoherent terror, emotions cycling too fast for color to stabilize. Zira has never been under fire before. That much is viscerally obvious. She is not processing. She is not thinking. She is simply in the oldest and most fundamental state any creature can occupy, the moment before the predator's jaws close. Look at me, Maya says. Zira doesn't look. Empress. Zira looks. Maya holds her gaze. Steady. Certain. Not performing calm, actually calm, in the way that the eye of a storm is calm. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything is happening so completely and so correctly that there is no room left for anything else. I am going to keep you alive, Maya says. Do exactly what I say, exactly when I say it. Zira's bioluminescence stutters. The white panic doesn't disappear, but underneath it, something amber begins to push through. She nods. Maya rolls left, clearing the cover, and fires twice. The SIG barks 2 rounds, center mass, jacketed hollow points at 450 meters per second. The lead mercenary's exosuit is rated for micrometeorites. It is not rated for this. The impacts lift him off his feet in the 0.4 G and slam him backward into his partner with the kinetic authority of a planet that forged Maya's entire body in its gravitational image. Both go down. The second mercenary untangles himself, brings his rifle up. Maya closes the distance. This is the part that looks wrong. Every instinct says to take cover, stay back, use the gun from distance. The trouble is that Maya has 7 rounds left in the current magazine, the spare is in her jacket pocket, and she has done this math before. At 0.4 G in an enclosed space against exosuited opponents whose armor handles ranged fire better than it handles kinetic impact, the calculation favors close. She hits him with her shoulder. In 1.0 G it would have staggered him. In 0.4 G, with 70 kilograms of muscle and bone density that Earth's gravity spent 4 billion years optimizing, it sends him flying. He arcs across the chamber in the low gravity and impacts the far wall with a sound like wet furniture collapsing. His spine, evolved for a gentler world, fails at angles that anatomy does not intend. The third and fourth mercenaries fire simultaneously. Maya drops, the plasma bolts crossing the space where her torso was, and returns fire twice more. 1 hit, 1 miss. The HUD screams proximity warnings. 2 more contacts, closing from the right corridor. She moves. The smell of the chamber has changed. She notices it the way she notices everything. Peripherally catalogued, filed. Ozone from the plasma. The sweet copper of Vrell blood. Something chemical and sharp from the void suit's internal cooling systems. And beneath it all, faint as memory, the smell of scorched Marathine. That beautiful white stone burning because beautiful things burn when they're in the way. She racks the slide. Fires. Moves. Fires again. When the first magazine runs dry and the slide locks back, she is behind a collapsed decorative column with 2 hostile contacts between her and Zira's position. Her hands, she notices, are slightly slick. She has been gripping the SIG hard enough that her palm is sweating through the adrenaline. She wipes it on her trouser leg. Slaps the fresh magazine home. Releases the slide. 7 more rounds. Then the knife. She does not let herself think beyond the knife. 1 problem at a time. Getting Zira out of the chamber costs Maya her clean left shoulder and most of her composure. The plasma bolt catches her mid-movement, crossing the open ground between the throne and the service corridor entrance. It is a grazing hit, the weapon tracking late, the shooter compensating for her speed at the last moment. But a grazing hit from a military plasma caster means the bolt catches the back of her left shoulder at the socket, heat searing through the graphene-woven jacket and into the meat of her deltoid. The pain is immediate, white, total. Maya's body hits the floor and she slides the last 2 meters to the corridor entrance on pure momentum, dragging Zira with her. The Empress's cry of shock drowned out by the plasma fire crossing overhead. She gets them into the corridor. She gets the access hatch shut. She leans against it, breathing through her nose, and assesses. The shoulder burns. She can feel the precise geography of the wound through and through, the plasma bolt having both entered and exited the tissue, which means the heat cauterized as it went. Structural damage but no bleed-out risk. She rotates the arm. The joint moves, screaming through every rotation, but moves. Okay, Maya thinks. Okay, it works. What she says out loud. We need to reach the lower-level service deck. Escape pods are there. Zira is staring at her shoulder. You are injured, the Empress says. Her galactic standard is perfect, but the tone is wrong, not clinical, not diplomatic. Something naked in it, something that sounds like shock at a thing she does not have a framework for. Yes, Maya says. You are continuing. Yes. Zira's bioluminescence has shifted again. The white terror is still there, layered underneath everything else like a bass frequency. But now there is something else on top of it. Something pale gold and flickering. Confusion, maybe, or the beginning of a question she doesn't yet know how to ask. You should be in shock, Zira says softly. The medical response to that level of thermal trauma in a Vrell dash. I know, Maya says. She pushes off from the wall, ignoring the way the movement makes her vision briefly white at the edges. Humans don't work like Vrell. Come on. She does not say, I might be in shock. I just can't afford it right now. She does not say, my hands are cold, which is a bad sign, and the world has a faint tunnel quality to the edges of my vision that I really hope is just adrenaline. She does not say any of this because none of it is useful information. She moves. Zira follows. The corridor between the grand chamber and the lower-level service deck is beautiful and tactically useless, 30 meters of polished brass and carved arches. No cover, perfect sight lines from both ends. Maya clears it fast, pushing herself, ignoring the way her shoulder sends protest signals through every other system in her body. Her HUD flickers. She blinks. The targeting overlay stutters, red contacts appearing and disappearing as the Boeing software fights the station's viral intrusion. The implant's power reserve is at 34%. She cannot rely on it for more than another hour. Fine, she thinks. I'll use eyes. She has used eyes before. They reach the first junction and Maya stops them cold with one hand, pressing Zira against the wall. She listens. Human hearing is not extraordinary by galactic standards. The Vrell can hear in 7 frequency ranges simultaneously, but Maya has spent 11 years teaching herself to listen correctly, to parse the meaningful sounds from the ambient ones. There. The soft, regulated breathing of someone trying to be quiet. The near imperceptible click of a void suit servo-cycling. 2 contacts, maybe 3, waiting in the junction ahead. She looks at Zira, points 2 fingers at her own eyes, then points toward the junction. Watch. Learn. Zira watches. Maya reaches into the wreckage of a fallen service drone. The viral intrusion has killed half the station's automated systems and extracts a power cell. She pitches it high, arcing it over the junction in the low gravity, letting the physics of 0.4 G carry it further than any human arm throw should reach. The contacts react. Movement, the creak of armor, the redirect of attention. Maya comes around the corner low and fast, already inside their response arc. The General Dynamics CW9 combat knife is 30 centimeters of ceramic titanium composite, and it is already in her right hand because she has been holding it for 30 seconds, preparing for exactly this. She does not think about it. The knife moves because she has practiced this motion approximately 10,000 times in a gym back on Earth that smelled of rubber flooring and old sweat, and the body does not forget. 2 contacts down. For seconds. Minimal noise. She stands over them, breathing harder than she would like, and wipes the blade. When she turns, Zira is frozen in the corridor entrance, staring. Are you injured? Maya asks. Zira shakes her head slowly. Her bioluminescence is doing something Maya hasn't catalogued before. A deep, steady violet, very still, very focused. It is the color of intense concentration. The Empress is working something out. You moved, Zira says. Like you knew exactly where they were. I heard them. I did not hear them. I was standing in the same corridor. Different ears, Maya says. Zira is silent for a moment, her violet bioluminescence pulsing slow and thoughtful. Different ears, she repeats. Because on your world, you needed to hear predators. Maya looks at her. For a moment, just a moment, she is surprised not by the conclusion, but by the speed of it. The Empress is frightened. She is running for her life, and she is still thinking. Yes, Maya says. What kind of predators? Maya almost smiles. She moves them forward instead. The kind that made us. 3 minutes later, in a maintenance alcove off the secondary corridor, the universe decides to make its argument. The adrenaline has been managing the shoulder wound through chemistry and willpower. It is a negotiated arrangement, and like all negotiated arrangements with biology, it has terms and a timeline. Maya feels the shift sudden, tidal, when the adrenaline begins to ebb. Not completely, not terminally, but the chemical tide goes out enough to let the actual state of her body make itself known. Her vision goes gray at the peripheries. She catches herself on the wall with her good arm. Her knees don't buckle, but they consider it. The shoulder is a white inferno and she can actually feel, the warmth of something that might be fluid that should not be where it is. She looks down. The graphene jacket is dark at the shoulder, darker than she'd assessed earlier, and the color has spread another 4 centimeters in the last few minutes. That's not good, she thinks, with the clinical detachment of someone who learned long ago that panic is just energy wasted on the wrong problem. She presses her good hand against the wound. Hard. Feels the immediate revolt of her entire nervous system at the pressure. Keeps it there. Zira sees. The Empress crosses the alcove in 2 steps silent. Her movements suddenly precise in a way they haven't been since the chamber exploded, and her 6-fingered hands go to Maya's arm. Not to help apply pressure, because Zira's hands don't have the force for it. But she holds her fingertips against the graphene jacket, and she looks at Maya's face with an expression that needs no bioluminescent translation. "Tell me what to do," Zira says. "You're doing it," Maya says, which is not entirely true but is not entirely false either. The contact helps. It gives her something to measure herself against, a physical reference point for where her body is in space. 30 seconds. The wave passes. The gray at the edges becomes normal peripheral vision again. The world resolves. Maya breathes. "I'm fine," she says. "You are not fine," Zira says with extraordinary precision. "But you are continuing anyway." "Yes." Zira is quiet. Her hands do not move from Maya's arm. "Why?" Zira asks softly. Not the grand philosophical why. Not why do humans do this, why are your bodies like this, why does your species accept such terms of existence? Something smaller. More immediate. Why are you risking yourself for me specifically? You do not know me. I have not been. She pauses. The bioluminescence flickers pale blue, that color Maya has learned to read. I have not been kind to you. I called you a decoration. I allowed them to call you that. Maya looks at her. The Empress's eyes are large and dark, adapted for the spectrum of a different sun. And in this moment they are very direct. Because that's the job, Maya says. Zira waits, as though expecting more. That's it, Maya says. That's the whole answer. Zira's bioluminescence does something quiet and complicated. On my world, she says, we have a concept, the willing shield. We sing about it. We write about it. We build statues of it. We have not had a living example in 300 years. Maya checks the corridor, checks her knife, decides not to address this. Statues are heavy, she says. Let's not be a statue. They move. The Grand Rotunda is where everything becomes something else. It is a cathedral of glass overlooking Veriprime storms, 5 levels of crystalline gallery curving inward like a cupped hand, and the assassination squad survivors, 12 of them, the core of the professional unit, the ones who survived the initial breach because they are the best, have set up a defensive perimeter around the escape pod access bay. A General Dynamics M240B plasma caster, retrofitted for vacuum operation, sits on a tripod at the center of the perimeter, can punch through ship hulls. Maya and Zira are at the gallery level looking down. 12 hostiles. 1 anti-armor weapon. Maya has the knife, the SIG with 3 rounds left, and a shoulder that has been arguing with her for 11 minutes. Her HUD is at 18% power. The targeting overlay blinks in and out like a dying star. She studies the room. She studies the gravity plating maintenance hatches, visible from this angle 4 of them, evenly distributed across the rotunda floor, each accessible by a standard hegemony engineering tool that she does not have. She looks at her knife. She looks at the gravity plating hatch nearest to the gallery access stair. She looks at Zira. I need 4 minutes, Maya says. Can you be absolutely silent for 4 minutes? Yes, Zira says. The word comes out without hesitation, without the diplomatic soft pedaling she has used for everything in the 6 months Maya has known her. Just, yes. As though she has decided that this is not a moment for anything except the truth. Then stay here and don't move, Maya goes down. The staircase is the problem. It is open on one side, visible from 3 positions in the rotunda below. She descends it on the outside of the railing, hanging from her good arm, moving hand over hand in the low gravity in a controlled, silent drop that covers 12 meters in 40 seconds and deposits her on the lower gallery in a crouch behind a support column. Her shoulder does not forgive this. She stays in the crouch for a moment, breathing through the white noise of the injury, and then she moves to the maintenance hatch. The hatch is locked. The lock is standard hegemony, a rotating code on a pressure pad, 6 digits, cycling through a randomized sequence every 90 seconds. Maya stares at it. Her HUD is at 12%, running code crack algorithms in the background but making no promises. She puts the CW9's tip into the seam of the hatch and applies force. She applies human force. 70 kilograms of mass optimized for 1.0 G, shoulder joint screaming. The sound she makes in her throat involuntary and quiet and nowhere near a scream because she does not have that luxury. The ceramic titanium blade flexes. The hatch seam gives. She drives it further, rotates, levers. The hatch tears open. The sound is a metallic shriek that lasts 1.3 seconds and fills the rotunda. Every hostile below snaps toward it. Maya is already at the gravity plating controls. The Vrell station manual, she downloaded it 6 months ago because of course she did, because she read every single technical specification for every system in every room she was responsible for protecting, specifies that the rotunda gravity plating operates independently from the rest of the station. It has a manual override, physical dial, no code required, designed for emergency engineering access. Maya sets it to 1.0 G Earth standard. The effect is instantaneous. There is a moment, a single impossible moment, that Maya will remember for the rest of her life. The moment before the weight hits them, and the moment when it does, and the silence between those two things. Then the gravity changes, and the grand rotunda of the Cephalon Spire becomes, briefly, a small piece of earth. The plasma caster drops first, its tripod not designed for genuine weight, and it hits the floor with a sound that shakes the glass. 3 mercenaries fold at the knees simultaneously, their cardiovascular systems unprepared for the sudden demand, their hearts laboring against a column of blood that has abruptly become twice as heavy. The heavy worlders fare better, their training gives them 2 or 3 seconds of functional movement, but their reflexes are calibrated for the station's normal pull, and calibration is everything. They stagger. One tries to raise his weapon and cannot hold it level. One reaches for his radio and falls. One simply stands, rigid, veins standing out in the parts of his face his visor doesn't cover, expression unreadable. And then Maya walks through them. She does not run. There is no need to run. She moves with the heavy, deliberate stride of a human in her natural habitat. And the rotunda, this exquisite, crystalline, diplomatic space with its carved histories of the 9 houses is, for these 30 seconds, hers in a way that no other room in the known galaxy has ever been hers. She moves through the first 2 before they can recalibrate, her strikes economical, targeted, controlled. A heel of palm to a visor, the impact force of 1.0 G trained muscle meets the structural tolerance of armor rated for 0.4 G emergency impacts, and the armor loses. A knee to a joint designed for different angles. A throw using her low center of gravity, using the leverage that Earth spent 4 billion years teaching to every living thing that ever had to wrestle a planet, that sends a 2.5-meter mercenary into the floor with force enough to fracture the Murat Hine. The SIG comes out. 3 rounds. 3 shots. 3 decisions made at ranges where decision-making is a different activity than it is at distance. Slide locks open. Magazine empty. She picks up the fallen plasma caster one-handed, the weight of it genuine and grounding in the 1.0 G field, and she uses it as a bludgeon because she has 4 rounds of charge remaining and 0 patience for the rifle's unfamiliar trigger weight. The fight takes 47 seconds. When it is over, Maya stands in the center of the rotunda. She is breathing in great controlled pulls, 4 count in, 4 count out, the box breathing technique that her first instructor, a retired SEAL named Torres who smelled permanently of coffee and disappointment, drilled into her until it was autonomic. Her good hand is cut across the knuckles, the skin split from repeated impact against armor plating. Her left arm is useless, hanging, the shoulder finally having registered its objection by refusing to participate further. A ricochet from one of the last plasma exchanges has taken a chunk of skin from her right cheekbone. She resets the gravity to 0.4 g. The lightness is dizzying sudden, unmoored, the familiar alienness of a planet that isn't pulling her. She sways, catches herself, turns. The chamber is silent. This is the silence. This is the thing the title promised. Zira is standing at the gallery rail 3 levels up, looking down. Her bioluminescence is gold solid, unwavering, unbroken gold. A color Maya has never seen her sustain for longer than a second or two. It is the color of something that has passed entirely beyond surprise and arrived at something deeper and more permanent. The surviving delegates, 7 of them, scattered through the gallery levels where they fled when the fighting began, are utterly still. A hegemony admiral who was crouching behind a support pillar has straightened slowly, without seeming to decide to do it, drawn upright by the same instinct that makes mammals move away from fire and toward its light. The 2 surviving Vrell honor guards, sonic disruptors lowered, stand with the particular stillness of creatures whose certainty about the shape of the world has just been structurally revised. Nobody speaks. Nobody moves. The plasma caster in Maya's hand is not pointing at anyone. She is just holding it because setting it down would require a decision, and she has not made that decision yet. And in the silence, the distinction matters. The silence lasts for 8 seconds. They are the longest 8 seconds Maya has experienced since the decompression event on Kepler Station that she is not allowed to discuss under her security clearance. Then Zira speaks, from the gallery above, her voice carrying in the crystalline air. Her galactic standard is careful and precise, every word selected. This, the Empress says, is what a Class 9 Deathworlder looks like. She is not speaking to Maya. She is speaking to every surviving witness in the room. No one responds. The Admiral's mouth opens and closes. One of the Vrell honor guards, a veteran, old enough to have his bioluminescent patterns permanently etched into his skin, performs the Vrell equivalent of a bow. A slow, full extension of his neck downward. Maya sets the plasma caster on the floor. Her legs, she notices distantly, are no longer entirely reliable. She stands because standing is what she is doing. She is not sure for how much longer this will be true. Ms. Voss, Zira calls down, her voice steady but containing something that is not stability. Can you make it to the stairs? Maya looks at the stairs. Yes, she says. That, Zira says very quietly to no one in particular, appears to mean something different in her language. The squad leader is the last problem. He is waiting in the escape pod corridor, a Vrell defector, his bioluminescence artificially suppressed by a chemical block, his powered armor compensating for the gravity differentials, his plasma blade cycling through a violet-white frequency that means cutting, not burning. He is tall. He is fast. He has been waiting while Maya's body spent 47 seconds doing things bodies are not designed to do repeatedly. The pet, he says. The contempt in his galactic standard is precise and surgical. Zira's little decoration. Do you know how many people you have killed today? Maya looks at him. Her left arm doesn't work. Her HUD is at 4% basically decorative. The plasma caster is on the rotunda floor behind her. Too heavy to have carried. She has the knife. She breathes in. Do you know? Maya says, what killed the last apex predator on Earth? The squad leader pauses. Us, Maya says. He lunges. Fast, genuinely fast. The armor servo assist multiplying his native speed. The plasma blade carving an arc that would have opened Maya's sternum to hip if she were standing where he expected. She is not standing where he expected. She is inside the arc. She is against him before the blade completes its swing. Her right hand finding his wrist, her fingers closing. The bones under the powered glove are Vrell bones, hollow, optimized for a gentler physics. Her grip is earth bones. The same grip that her great-great-grandmother used to pull root vegetables from ground that wanted to keep them. The same grip that her father used to haul fishing nets against a tide that didn't care. She squeezes. The powered glove tries to resist. The bones inside do not. The squad leader screams, the plasma blade falling, and Maya catches it left-handed. The shoulder is a supernova of protest. She makes no sound, and drives it upward through the gap between neck plate and helmet seal. He goes down. She goes down with him, one knee on the floor, one hand on the wall, breathing. Okay, she thinks. Okay, that's all of them. She stays on the floor for a moment. Just a moment. Her cheek is bleeding where the ricochet took the skin. Her knuckles are bleeding. Her shoulder is a detailed argument for the existence of pain as a concept. She puts one foot flat on the floor, then the other. She stands. Zira is in the corridor entrance. The Empress crosses the distance between them and stops just inside arm's reach. Her bioluminescence is still gold, that deep, unbroken gold, and her expression is something that Maya has no frame for, something that Vrell faces were not specifically designed to convey and are doing it anyway through pure force of circumstance. Zira reaches out. Her six-fingered hand, fragile, fine, evolved for an entirely different conversation with gravity, touches Maya's face. The side that is not bleeding, careful, tentative, as though approaching a wild thing that has consented to be approached and that consent is not to be wasted. You are extraordinary, Zira says. Maya meets her eyes. No, Maya says. Her voice comes out rough, worn at the edges. I'm just the thing that showed up. Zira's bioluminescence does something complicated and private. On my world, she says softly. That is the oldest definition of extraordinary that we have. Maya lets out a breath. It is not quite a laugh. It is the sound a person makes when something lands correctly after a very long journey. Come on, Your Eminence, she says. She turns toward the escape pods. Before I change my mind about the stairs. The Boeing Sikorsky gunships arrive 43 minutes later, their running lights cutting through Veriprime's upper atmospheric haze in clean lines of Terran blue and white. They come in hot fur gunships, 2 marine deployment platforms, a medical frigate with the red-on-black of General Dynamics Emergency Services on its hull, and the docking sequence takes 11 minutes because the station's automated systems are still fighting the viral payload. Maya spends those 11 minutes on the floor of an escape pod, her back against the bulkhead, refusing the emergency medical kit that Zira found in the pod's emergency supplies because she does not know alien biologics well enough to trust what is in it. Zira sits beside her, not at a diplomatic distance, beside her, close enough that Maya can feel the warmth of the Empress's bioluminescence, not heat, exactly, but a quality of light that has a temperature to it. The gold has softened into something warmer, more amber, the way firelight becomes friendlier as a room gets smaller. Your world, Zira says after a long quiet. Tell me something true about it. Maya considers. It rains there, she says. Not the recirculated kind. Real rain from actual clouds. And when it hits the ground after a storm, the ground smells dash. She pauses, trying to find the translation. There's a word, petrichor. There isn't a galactic standard equivalent. Zira is quiet, processing this. Is it beautiful? Zira asks. Yes, Maya says. Then, it's also trying to kill you. The lightning strikes alone account for about 2,000 deaths a year. Zira's bioluminescence flickers with the blue behind the eyes color. Even now, beautiful and lethal, Zira says. That does not surprise me. The docking clamps engage with a shudder that travels through the hull. Maya, with the focused determination of someone who has decided that she will absolutely be standing upright when those doors open, gets to her feet. She is standing when the Marine team enters. Barely, but standing. The medical assessment aboard the USS Endurance is conducted by a Terran flight surgeon named Okafor, who has the professional demeanor of someone who has seen everything and the personal demeanor of someone who has very strong feelings about paperwork being completed correctly. plasma burn through the left deltoid and supraspinatus, he says, not looking up from the scanner. 3 cracked ribs. When did that happen? Rotunda, Maya says. I didn't catalog it at the time. Okafor looks up. He stares at her for a moment with the particular expression of a doctor who is running internal calculations about what he is and isn't going to say. Right, he says. Cracked ribs. Avulsion fracture in the left hand. When dash. Maintenance hatch. You pried open a maintenance hatch. Locked. With your hand. It was time-sensitive. Okafor makes a sound that is not a word and returns to his scanner. Laceration, right cheekbone. Subconjunctival hemorrhage, right eye. That's the blood in the white of your eye, Chief, it looks alarming. Systemic cortisol depletion consistent with sustained dash, he stops. Studies the readings. Chief Voss, your cortisol levels are at emergency baseline. You've been running on fumes for the last dash, he checks the timestamp. Hour and 12 minutes. I know, Maya says. You should have been non-functional. I know, Maya says. Okafor sits back. He looks at her with something that is not quite medical detachment anymore. The Vrell delegates, he says. They've been asking questions. About you specifically. About human physiology. About Earth classification. I figured they might. The Hegemony Admiral submitted a formal query to the Galactic Medical Registry. He wants to know if your bone density readings are a species-wide trait or a personal anomaly. Okafor pauses. I told him species-wide. Maya looks at him. His response, Okafor says, was, and I am quoting directly, that cannot be correct. Please re-examine your data. Maya's mouth twitches. It is not quite a smile. It is the shape a smile makes when it is too tired to fully commit. What did you tell him? I told him to examine his own data, Okafor says. He stands, sets the scanner aside, and picks up a medical spray that will handle the shoulder without surgical intervention if applied for the next 6 hours. Chief Voss, you held that station alone. With a plasma burn, 3 cracked ribs, and an avulsion fracture. I had 0, Maya says. Okafor considers this. She held a wall and asked you questions. She stayed. Maya says simply, that counts. The Galactic Council emergency session convenes 4 days later, transmitted on all hegemony channels simultaneously. It is the first emergency session called in 11 years, the last having concerned a supernova event in the outer cluster territories. This session concerns a human. Maya does not attend. She is in a recovery berth aboard the Endurance, her shoulder immobilized in a general dynamic surgical frame, her cracked ribs taped, watching the session feed on the berth's display panel with the detached interest of someone reading about weather in a place they are not currently located. Empress Zira speaks for 47 minutes. She does not speak about the attack, or the perpetrators, or the political mechanisms behind the assassination attempt. She will speak about those things in other sessions with other audiences, with the measured cadence of a diplomat managing consequences. In this session, she speaks about what she saw. She speaks about a human who was told she was decorative, and who treated the designation with the precise amount of interest it deserved, which was none. Who catalogued exits while being laughed at. Who counted their heartbeats and spent 6 months reading maintenance manuals and submitted 4 security redesigns that no one read, because she was doing the job regardless of whether anyone was watching. She speaks about a plasma bolt and a shoulder that kept moving. She speaks about a rotunda full of assassins, and a gravity override, and 47 seconds of silence after which the chamber was quiet. She speaks about a human who, when asked why she was risking her life, said, because that's the job. As though this were the smallest and most obvious possible answer. As though there were no other answer that required consideration. The Terran protectorate classification, Zira says, requires immediate reclassification. Earth's Class 9 designation does not reflect the reality of what we encountered, and what we encountered does not reflect a clerical error or statistical anomaly. She pauses. What we encountered, Zira says, is exactly what Earth has been all along. We simply did not have the courage of our data. The vote for reclassification passes in 18 minutes. Class 10 is not a designation that exists in the hegemony registry. They create it. They create it specifically for Earth with a notation that reads, in the formal language of the Galactic Consensus, origin world of Terran species. Gravity, 1.0 standard. Threat class, Apex. Classification history, systematically underestimated. Revision permanent. 3 subclauses are attached. No human may be disarmed in hegemony council space. No human may be classified as ceremonial, decorative, or auxiliary in any security or military context. Any vessel carrying a human security operative is to be considered a sovereign military extension of the Terran protectorate, regardless of hull registry. The session ends. Maya turns the display off. She lies in the dark of the recovery berth, her shoulder aching with the deep, specific ache of injuries that were worth having, and she looks at the stars through the viewport. Zira visits on the 5th day. She enters without ceremony, no entourage, no protocol officer, no announcement. Just the soft click of Vrell footsteps in the corridor outside, and the door, and the Empress herself, carrying something in her long-fingered hands. A vial, small, sealed, filled with liquid that is slightly murky, slightly brown, dense with something. Water, Zira says. From Earth. Your diplomatic liaison arranged it. She holds it out. I am told it contains an extraordinary concentration of minerals. That it is she consults something in her memory. Hard water. From a mountain source. Maya takes it. The glass is cool against her palm. She holds it up to the light from the viewport and looks at it. This small, improbable vial of her planet, dense and brown and imperfect and alive with the mineral record of ground that has been ground since before complex life decided to take a risk. I have a question, Zira says. Maya lowers the vial. Wait. Your world, Zira says. The predators. The gravity. The all of it. The storms and the toxins and the impact events and the pathogens. She pauses, choosing words. When did your species decide it was worth surviving? Maya looks at her for a long moment. We didn't decide, Maya says. It decided for us. Everything on Earth is worth surviving. You learn that early. You learn that your body is for enduring things. You learn that pain is information, not a verdict. She turns the vial in her fingers. You learn that showing up is most of it. Most of what any of it requires is just showing up, not quitting, being present in the problem until the problem ends. Zira is very still. Her bioluminescence is the deep amber color, the warmth, the trust, the friendship that Maya has read 17 times in the behavioral notes she compiled and has never, until this moment, seen directed at herself without diplomatic context around it. Is that what you did? Zira asks softly. You showed up, and did not quit. Yes, Maya says. That is, Zira says, the most terrifying and the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. Maya looks at the vial, at the water from a mountain on a planet that is trying to kill everything on it, including her, including everyone she has ever loved, and has somehow, in the trying, made them all into something the galaxy is only just beginning to understand. Your Eminence, Maya says. Zira. The Empress corrects, quietly. Maya looks at her. Next time you hire a bodyguard. Maya says, read the file. Zira's bioluminescence shifts to that blue behind the eyes, that private amusement that means something genuine is happening behind the diplomatic surface. I read your file, Zira says. I confess I did not believe it. And now. Zira is quiet for a moment. Outside the viewport, Veriprime storms turn in their ancient, indifferent patterns, the gas giant going about the business of being enormous without concern for the small, warm-blooded conversation taking place in its orbit. Now, Zira says, I believe every word. She sits down beside Maya, not across from her, not at a diplomatic distance, in the chair beside the recovery berth, and her bioluminescence settles into something steady and warm and without agenda. The stars turn. The water from Earth sits in Maya's palm, dense and mineral and real. Somewhere in the hegemony registry, a new classification is being added to every record, every file, every data core that has ever contained a notation about humans. Systematically underestimated. And beneath it, in the formal language of 8,000 years of galactic consensus, a new addendum that has never appeared before and that the archivists are still arguing about the appropriate placement of. Do not mistake patience for limitation. Do not mistake stillness for sleep. Do not mistake a creature that has survived its world for a creature that has merely endured it. They showed up. They did not quit. They were present in the problem until the problem ended. They are still here,